To talk about after we just got done talking about the 9 steps of the planning process. So what is planner certification? Planner certification is a certification awarded to individuals that demonstrate the ability to plan using the planning process. This ensures quality conservation to address resource concerns that benefits both the agency and partners, the clients, and the public at large. There are 3 levels of planner certification. The first level is the apprentice level, which is awarded to people, individuals that have demonstrated that they can do some, but not all parts of the planning process. As a level 1 planner, you're not authorized to certify your conservation plans, and your work must be reviewed by a certified planner. In Maryland, the next step would be the level 3 certification, which is a certified planner, which means that a planner has demonstrated the ability to use the planning process to plan common practices within their respective regions. And once awarded the level 3 certification, planners can sign off on all their plans and do not need to be reviewed. Level 2 planners are a specialty certification, which demonstrates that you can do all steps of the planning process within your designated specialty. And in Maryland, we require that you be a level 3 certification before you achieve the level 2 certification. So who is planner certification for? It's required for NRCS employees with planning in their job description. If you're a partner employee, you're encouraged to become certified, but it is not a requirement. And if you're a SolCon technician, you're encouraged to at least become a level 1 planner, but you are not required to do so. So what is the timeline for certification? So level 1 certification is typically within 18 months of employment. Level 3 happens 24 months after the level 1. Typically, it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 years to reach, to reach that level 3 certification. And the level 2, there is no timeline requirement for the level 2 certification. Okay, so what are the criteria for certification? So we'll start with level 1. We'll go through the level 1 certification requirements. You need to demonstrate that you have the knowledge and the skills and the abilities that are outlined in the KSAs required for level 1 certification, and we'll go over that document in a little more detail. The required curricula, there's coursework that is specific that you need to have to be eligible for certification. And then you need to have knowledge of essential practices for your respective regions of employment. And you should be able to demonstrate your ability to use the planning process to plan most of those practices within those essential practices with it. So if you're a level 1 planner, you need to be able to demonstrate you can use some parts of the planning process to plan those practices. So for level 3 certification, you need to be at least a level 1 planner. You need to have the KSAs. You need to have the knowledge and skills and abilities to demonstrate that you can show that you have the ability to plan using the planning process. The required curricula, there's more coursework that's required for level 3. And then again, the knowledge of those essential practices, demonstrate that you can use the entire planning process to plan those practices within your region. Also, level 3 planners, you need to have a plan reviewed by a DC or an appointee of the SRC, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail. For the level 2, it's the same thing, but for level 2, for CNMPs, we require that 2 plans are reviewed by the DC or an appointee of the SRC before certification. Okay, so where do we find these documents? They're located on the SharePoint under the Resources tab, and right here is the Maryland Essential KSAs for Planner Certification. So when you click this link, you'll get this document to show up. This document is required to be submitted with the request for planner certification. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but planners and DCs need to go over this document so they can quantify their development as employees. You'll notice up here that we've got this is level 1 criteria, level 3 criteria, and you can see the numbers is a 2 and a 4, and this is the KSA is the ability to use the soil survey and understand basic soils information. So down here, to be considered for a level 2, you need to at least be a level 1, you need to at least have a 2, which is you have basic knowledge and or can perform basic tasks with supervision and assistance. And here's some other criteria to help determine whether or not you have that basic knowledge for this particular KSA. And then on this right side, we've identified training opportunities to help that employee reach those goals of gaining that knowledge of what is required in this KSA. So if you look down here for level 1 planners, it's this beige color. So these colors right here, these are level 1. These are required courses for level 1. If it's this green color, this is a required course for level 3. And if it's a yellow color, it's a required course for C&P certification. I want to emphasize that the KSA document is way more important than the required curricula for planner certification, as the curricula gives you the knowledge to be able to demonstrate the knowledge that you need to be a certified planner. But this document or the KSA document is an acknowledgement that you demonstrated the abilities that this material. So this document, the KSA, is more important than the required curricula. So what are some common practices, that document? So here, again, in the SharePoint, under the Resources tab, under Certified Planners, you go to the Maryland Essential Practices for Conservation Planners, and you'll get a document that looks like this. We've divided up the state into 4 different regions. You have the Western Piedmont, Southern Maryland, and the upper and lower shores. And you can see what are the essential practices that are located in those respective regions. And for whatever planner certification that you are trying to obtain, you need to demonstrate that you can perform the planning process in that appropriate level that you're trying to obtain for that respective practice. So that means you need to be able to do the evaluation, the evaluations, the IR sheets, all of that stuff needs to be compiled, and you should be able to demonstrate that. The required curricula is also in this SharePoint folder. It's located right here, and it will give you a document that looks like this. And you can see that it's broken up into 3 different levels. There's a level 1, there's a level 3, and there's a level 2. All 3 of these have different requirements. This is what the course is called. This is the course ID if you want to search for it. And then you can see whether or not it's web-based or instructor-led. And then here are some notes that I would encourage you to take a look at for questions that may arise. Like one of them for the level 1 certification, I think it's the state-specific training for level 1. If you'll read this, it'll say that you need to take, there's a PowerPoint presentation in the planner certification folder. You need to review that PowerPoint presentation, and then once you review that, then you can self-certify that you've taken the required material for that certification. So sometimes you need to refer to this document to see if there are any notes available for that particular course. Also want to point out that there are proficiency exams available, but as new employees, I would not recommend that you guys take the proficiency exams. They were intended for the legacy planners, but as new employees, you should take the time and take these ag-learn courses. And I think the proficiency exams should have already been gone, but they're still here. But just know that you should be avoiding the proficiency exams. Okay, so plan review for level 3. So for a level 3 planner, you need to develop at least 1 field review conservation plan on at least 2 different land units. And in developing that plan, the planner must assess all applicable NRCS resource concerns and develop an alternative that addresses all the resource concerns identified. The plan submitted must include required documentation for all the assessed resource concerns, and the alternative must be documented on the 52. This doesn't mean, so the example that I gave you earlier where we had on the 52 and the 9 steps of planning, you write what the benchmark condition is, you have the no action, you have one alternative that maybe the client is preferred, and then you can have an alternative that addresses all the resource concerns that have been identified in the plan. Also, the policy states that a planner will be accompanied to the field by the district conservationist or an appointee of the SRC to meet with the decision maker to discuss how the planning process was and how it was working with you. Level 2, same thing, but the big difference here is that you need at least 2 plans to be reviewed by the DC or the ARC or a designated technical specialist that has been approved by the SRC. And that is basically the difference between the level 3 and level 2, is that there's 2 plans instead of 1. So working on submitting a request for certification. So what's needed for requesting certification? So for level 1, I need the KSAs and a request for certification. And we'll talk about where we get that request for certification and what's needed for those. So for level 3, there needs to be a completion of a plan review. The KSA needs to be submitted. The KSAs have a signature block that has for the DC to sign. So the DC needs to sign that KSA and submit it with the request. And the same thing for the level 2 planners. They need to have completed that plan and then submit to me the KSAs and that request for certification. So upon completion of the required training and the field review of at least 1 or the 2 plans for the level 2 documentation, the DC will send in the request to the SRC of planners who meet the minimum proficiency for their respective levels, and also the KSA worksheet. So the required, the request is located in the same SharePoint folder. That's the request for planner certification. You open it up, and it's going to look like a document like this. Some important things that I need on this, guys, is obviously your name, your agent, what organization are you affiliated with, and then also what's really important is I need these boxes to be checked. So I know, and I also need a signature, and I would prefer an electronic signature from the district, from the DCs, but it's not a requirement. But that is the request, and you can send that. You can send those requests to me with the KSAs, the DCs. Well, so what's the process of certification? So once I receive the request, I pull an Aglin report to verify that your coursework has been completed. I review the KSA documents. If the KSA documents are complete and the courseworks are complete, then I will get the SRC to sign off on the planner certification. Then I go into the national database and I update or create a new profile for you in the national database. And then a certificate is created, signed by the state con, and mailed to you. And that is the process.